But in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1, the author of Hebrews writes that it says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race that is marked out for us. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and the perfecter of our faith." You know, there's the metaphor there that I really like. Let us run with perseverance. You know, the metaphor is not strictly limited to the author of Hebrews. In fact, Paul references it a number of times, right? In 1 Corinthians chapter 9, Paul writes this. He's talking about just the Christian faith. He says, "Do you not know that in a race all runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way as to get the prize. Everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. They do it to get a crown that will not last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever. Therefore, I do not run like a man running aimlessly." Again, a metaphor of this, comparing our walk with Christ, our journey with Christ, as a race. And here Hebrews says, run with perseverance. Paul says in 1 Corinthians to run in such a way as to get the prize, to train and work hard in this race of life. And that comes to the end of Paul's life. I find this very interesting. It comes to the end of Paul's life, and he uses this metaphor again. And this time he's writing 2 Timothy. And one of the last things that Paul would have written, he's in prison, he's facing execution, he knows his time on earth is short, and he says of the life that he's lived, he says of the life that he's lived in 2 Timothy 4, 7 through 8, he says, "I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I've kept the faith. And there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day. And not only to me, but also to all who long for his appearing." A award is coming. And not just to myself, but to all who ran well. You know, I'm not like a professional runner by any stretch of anyone's imagination. And so I don't have a whole lot of running metaphors, so I'll share with you the one that I have. A year ago, I decided I wanted to just scratch something off my bucket list. I wanted to run a marathon. And, you know, I had not run a race since my sophomore year of high school when I ran the 800. Okay, so not really a big runner. But I thought, I'm going to do this, so I trained. Some of you guys remember, I shared pieces of that along the way. But I wanted to run a marathon. As soon as I started training, there's just enough competitiveness in me that I wasn't just going to train to finish it. I wanted to run well, right? So I picked a time that I wanted to accomplish, and I'm going to train for this time, and I want to run the best, the fastest, the best race that I can possibly imagine. So I set out, I started training for it, and race day came, and man, it was an exciting event. If you're a runner, the Lincoln Marathon, man, what a cool event they put on. But so this is how it works. There's about 12,000 runners in the Lincoln Marathon. But probably about 80% of them are running the half marathon. And the half marathon is run by all the half and the whole. They run the first part together, and then those who are running the full marathon, they branch out. And so I'm ready to go, and the starting line hits, and I'm running, and you know what, the marathon is the easiest race to feel like you start well. You know, you're not running very fast. You just kind of get out there and go. And the Lincoln Marathon is incredible because you're running with 12,000 people, right? You've got to be faster than some of them. So you're out there, you're running. But the other thing that was really cool is that there's people cheering everywhere. I'd never seen anything like it. For 13.1 miles, the whole half marathon, streets are lined with people cheering. It's like, They're the smart ones. Anyway, but the streets are lined with people cheering for all the runners. There's bands that are playing. People are handing out water and Gatorade. When you start getting to mile like 8, 9, 10, around there, people are handing out orange slices for you to refuel and granola bars. And when you get to mile like 12, they're handing out candy. There's one last sugar shot before the half mile is finished. And it's just this exciting deal. And you get out there, and the biggest challenge, and I studied up a little bit before, the biggest challenge for rookie marathon runners is to start too fast. Your adrenaline is going, and it's exciting. But I hit something that I was not prepared for. See, I got about mile 10, and I felt good. I mean, I hope so. I'm not even halfway done yet. So I'm feeling good, right? And I'm running, and I just got this I could literally run like this for days. I just felt awesome. And the thing is that I started getting 10, 11, 12, and now I'm still not even halfway, but I'm running surrounded by people who are running half marathons. And so these people are starting to breathe heavy, right? Because they're pacing themselves to finish with everything they got at the end. So they're breathing heavy, and they're dropping off and cramping up. And I'm like, oh yeah, I feel good, right? And so I feel real proud of myself, and I'm running, and people are struggling, and it makes me feel even better. And I keep on going. And all these people are cheering right at the end of the race. They're cheering a mile to go, half a mile to go, a tenth to go. And how it works is everybody finishes at Memorial Stadium. And so we're running north on 10th Street, and then we hit the point where all the half marathoners turn off and go into the stadium. And the full marathoners are going to wrap around the north side, hit the bike path, go down to Holmes Lake, and then come back to finish. And so here I am, and I'm running, and they're cheering, they're yelling, they're screaming, there's all the excitement, and then all of a sudden, I look up, and I'm all by myself. Nobody's cheering. Mile 13.2, nobody cares that you're still running. All the hype left with the half marathoners. And I look up, and there's nobody but me and a guy 50 yards in front of me, a guy 50 yards behind me, and a 6-foot, 150-pound African man running past me because he's about to finish the full marathon right after I finish the half. You know, there's some time. No, he did start early because he staggered. I think it was not going through my mind at the time. He's finishing, right? And there's some times in life where you're really motivated by the success and the drive of other people. Then there's other times where it absolutely demoralizes you, right? And that's where I was. So here I am. I went from on a high and a rush and momentum and feeling like I could run forever to mile 13.2. And all of a sudden I realized I'm alone in this thing. And I still have a long ways to go. Have you ever felt like that in your Christian life? Where you started strong. Maybe it's salvation. Maybe it's you give your life to Jesus and everybody's cheering. It's so exciting, right? And you're all jazzed up about it. And man, my new life and new excitement. And we're going. And it's easy to start this race, right? You just go and there's hype and there's excitement. And people are encouraging you. They come alongside you. They're cheering for you. And then next thing you know, you just look around and go, man, the cheering and the motivation is gone. And I still have a long ways to go. And what once was exciting momentum now becomes nothing but hard work in front of me. Maybe it wasn't salvation. Maybe it was just a boost in your spiritual life. It happens from time to time. Different new things come in. For us, together as a church, we're taking on this 30 for 30 challenge. Many of you guys who were part of it, many of us did this, where we challenged ourselves for 30 minutes a day for 30 days with the Lord. And man, there was excitement around it. And people were spending time with Jesus. There was testimony. We were talking about it every week, and it was exciting, and God was meeting with us. And maybe you're one that you jumped in there, and maybe it wasn't right away, maybe it was later in, but eventually you get there. And you step across that starting line, and you're all excited. But now you just kind of look around and just go, nobody's cheering for me anymore. And to think to do this for the rest of my life, the exciting newness is worn off, and now it just looks like a whole lot of work in front of me. You know, Christian life is a lot like running a race. The Christian life is a lot like running a race. You've heard it before. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon, right? You hear it before. But one of the things that is about the difference between a sprint and a marathon is a marathon is easy to start. It takes a pretty complex and disciplined game plan. You're running for a long time. A sprint is a very, very simple game plan, but it takes it out of you right away. I looked at the guy that ran past me. At 13.2 miles, he just finished 26.2. And there's a difference in the way that he ran versus the way that I ran, right? And that's okay. There's different runners at different speeds. You know what? There's also a lot of guys that I was running past, and a lot of guys and girls that were running past, and they're sitting on the curb, never finished. What's the difference? What's the difference between the one that starts the race and never finishes and the one that finishes strong? You know, I believe, like I said, there's a lot of strategy that goes in how you start the race. And if I want to look at the life of the Apostle Paul, and he says, I finished the race, and I finished it well. I've accomplished that which God has called me to. I look at Hebrews, who we just read, therefore, since we're surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses. You know what that's talking about? Hebrews chapter 11 is speaking of the heroes of the faith who run this race ahead of them. If I want to finish like the heroes of our faith, if I want to finish like the great followers of Jesus, how do I need to start this race? Well, what are some things that I need to do to be able to run and run well? You know, that's what John is going to teach us this morning. So here we see the beginning, in John chapter 1, we're going to see the beginning of the race for a few select disciples. In fact, it's the first 3 followers of Jesus. Now here's an interesting thing. You know that throughout the life and ministry of Jesus had tons of followers, right? At times, thousands of people came out to follow him. And yet, at the end of his life, there was only 120 left. So what was the difference? What was the difference between the crowds of people that hopped into the race, that crossed the starting line, but then faded away in the very end? What's the difference between those who started the race and let's look at those 12, those disciples that we know finished the race? So we're going to take a look at how these disciples, these first 3 disciples, started. So we're just going to look at these 3 guys and the lessons that we can learn in following Jesus, the lessons that we can learn about following Jesus from these 3 disciples. Let's take a look at our text today. John chapter 1, verse 35. So it starts out saying the next day. You remember that John the Baptist is giving this testimony of who Jesus is. First he says to the priests and the Levites, he's accessible, the Messiah is here, he's come. The next day, he's teaching the same. He says, look, the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. Now see him for who he is. He's the Son of God. Then he goes on to say, look, the Lamb of God on that 3rd day. He says, there he is, now go follow him. Now, this is kind of where we're going to pick up in our story today. And, sometimes it's hard, at least for me, maybe not you, at least for me, to wrap my mind around like the biblical context and really to see it for maybe exactly how it looked. And sometimes I like to picture it in my modern day context, okay? So here we have John the Baptist. And John the Baptist is kind of this leader. We have Andrew and John, who were the two disciples that were following him. We know it's Andrew because in verse 40 it says it was Andrew. And then we're pretty certain that the other one was John. It doesn't say it by name, but we know that throughout John's gospel he never refers to himself by name. If there was another disciple, he probably would have named him. Also, we see some specific detail in the telling of the story that would have only been known or cared about by those who were there. So here we have John, we have Andrew, and then we have John the Baptist. And I'm picturing today, the pastors are frequent coffee shops maybe more than anywhere else. So I'm picturing John the Baptist. He's sitting out on the patio in front of the mill, and he's sitting there with his two little followers, John and Andrew, and they're talking about life and ministry. And all of a sudden, Jesus starts walking across the street, but he just starts walking down the street. Maybe John and Andrew have their back turned to him. John the Baptist says, "Hey, look, the Lamb of God." Now, they've already been taught. John the Baptist has been teaching his followers, teaching his disciples that, listen, I'm not the Messiah, but I've come to set up the Messiah, and he's here, he's among us. And so John the Baptist says, "Hey, look over there across the street, look, Jesus is going by." So what do John and Andrew do? They get up and they follow him. That's what we're going to pick up in our story. I'm going to read the text for us first. John chapter 1, verse 35. The next day, John was there again with two of his disciples. When he saw Jesus passing by, he said, "Look, the Lamb of God." And the two disciples heard him say this. They followed Jesus. Turning around, Jesus saw them following and asked, "What do you want?" They said, "Rabbi," which means teacher, "where are you staying?" "Come," he replied, "and I'll show you, and you will see." So they went and they saw where he was staying and spent that day with him. It was about the 10th hour. Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, was one of the two who heard what John had said and who had followed Jesus. The first thing Andrew did was to find his brother Simon and tell him, "We have found the Messiah," that is the Christ. And he brought him Jesus. Jesus looked at him and said, "You are Simon, son of John. You will be called Cephas," which when translated, it's Peter. All right, so let's take a closer look at what's taking place in the story. So here we got John the Baptist, and he's sitting there with his disciples, John and Andrew. They see the Messiah, they see Jesus walking by. He sent them to go get him, and they followed him. Now, when we hear the term "follow him," they followed Jesus, we tend to think a certain thing, right? When you say I'm a follower of Jesus or I follow Jesus, typically what you're saying is, like, I'm a Christian, right? If you say I'm a follower of Jesus, what you're meaning is I've given my life to him, I've given myself completely and fully to the person of Jesus Christ. I'm a follower of Jesus. We've got to remember this is a narrative, okay? This is a story. So what they meant in this is they said, Jesus was walking by, and two guys got up, and they followed him, okay? So they have not committed their lives fully and completely to Jesus at this point. They have not, like, just totally jumped in. They're still just going. John says, "There's the Messiah," and they go, he's right there, we're just going to talk to him, right? It'd be like if there was a celebrity walking by the street and said, "Hey, look, there he is." And they're like, "Whoa, let's go." And you follow them. Creeper kind of thing to do, but they're following. And it is kind of a creeper thing to do because you see that they never make contact with Jesus. They're just like following him. They don't initiate any conversation. They don't initiate any contact. So we're just left to wonder. Maybe Jesus was talking with some others as he was passing by, and so they just kind of like don't want to be rude and interrupt. Maybe Jesus was walking by himself, and they just like, I mean, how do you just go up to the Son of God on the street and just like start chit-chatting? You know, like, how do you break into that conversation? Like, so maybe they're standing back there like, "You say something. No, you say something. No, you say something." We don't know what's happening, but neither one of them initiated any contact with Jesus. They just started following him. Now, let's also remember that this is the pre-miracle working Jesus. Jesus had not done a single miracle at this point in his life. His ministry had really hardly even started at all. And so Jesus had just been baptized by John. He'd gone into the wilderness to fast for 40 days. There he was tempted by the devil. Now he'd come back out. It's shortly after this time. There's no miracles that have been done. We don't know if he had done any kind of teaching, maybe some, but there did not have a big public ministry at all. And now you have this guy, Jesus, not the miracle worker, Jesus the carpenter, is walking down the street. And these two guys just get up from the coffee shop and walk across the street and start following him. I even picture Jesus walking like, are you guys following me? So he crosses the street, he turns the corner, and they follow him. They're like, I think they're following me. So he like crosses the street and doubles back just to find out if it's still going to follow, and he does. And turns around, what do you want? Right? What do you want? Can I help you guys? What is it that you need? And so here's Jesus saying, what do you want? And what do they say? What is their response? He says, where are you staying? You know, I don't think he said, where are you staying? Because they were just saying, hey, do you need a roommate? Can I come stay with you? I want to, I'm told. They weren't quite in yet. They were still just inquiring of Jesus. Coming to check him out. Where are you staying? Maybe, I wonder if it was where are you staying? Can I stop by sometime? Jesus, apparently you're busy. I know, sorry, I didn't mean to intrude, but okay, all we want, Jesus, is just to, can you pencil me in sometime, maybe like next Thursday? If you got to eat and I got to eat, maybe we could have a bite together, maybe? They're just inquiring of Jesus. Where are you staying? Can I swing by? And I love Jesus' response. What did he say? Come, you will see. Where are you staying? Come, and you will see. And it says, so they went and they saw where he was staying, and they spent the day with him. So here's Jesus. These guys are just kind of inquiring. They're kind of curious. They're figuring out who he is. And John the Baptist, he's our teacher, but he said, you're the one, so let me go see for myself. And I don't know what to say to him, but all the caution and guard that they had up, Jesus said, come on in. He draws him close. He said, why don't you come over to my house and spend the day with me? He said, I'm going to clear my schedule. And I want to know you. So yeah, I love the way that Jesus just draws people. You know the story of Zacchaeus? Remember, he's a short little guy, wanted to see Jesus, and climbs the tree and looks at him. When Jesus sees him up the tree, what does he say? He says, Zacchaeus, come down. I'm going to your house. See, Jesus has this tendency, this thing that he does, he just draws us into himself. You know, anytime we get this picture of Jesus as this distant God, this God that is far off, that we just got to come and be fearful of his interact. No, Jesus is the one that initiates that conversation. He initiates that relationship, and he draws us in. And that's what he did with Andrew and John that day. And then it says, they spent the day with him. It was about the 10th hour. Now, the 10th hour, according to the Jewish timekeeping, would have been about 4 in the afternoon. Some say that John uses the Roman time from 10 o'clock in the morning. But who cares, right? But what does that have anything to do with the story? It's probably not a really big deal. What does it have? I mean, it doesn't impact your life at all. So why did John even put it? Why is it in there? Because it was a big deal to him. You see, this was written about 50 years or so after this story happened. 50 years. John says, I remember it was like yesterday. The day that I met Jesus. The day that Jesus looked past all of the mess that I was, and he invited me into. I remember the day that he said, I want to spend the rest of the day. I remember the day, about 4 in the afternoon. John loved Jesus. And from that day forward, his life would never be the same. And 50 years later, John said, I remember it like it was yesterday. I'll tell you what time it was. I remember when I first met Jesus in that kind of way, when Jesus came and he lived with me and he brought me in close. Now, I grew up in the church and knew the things of God, but I remember the day. It was around 7 o'clock in the morning. I got up early and I was watching TV, a Christian program called Gospel Bill, kids program. At the end of it, they asked you if you want to ask Jesus into your heart. And I said that I did. And I prayed a prayer. It wasn't just a silly thing that a kid was doing because the person on the TV said so. I knew it was real, and I knew something happened. And I prayed the prayer, and I ran upstairs, and I woke up my mom and dad and said, Mom and Dad, I asked Jesus in my heart. And my wife did the same. See, John loved Jesus. And the day that he met him changed the course of his life. It would never be the same. You know, we hear about John in the Bible, and we've already talked about how he references himself a number of times in the book as the disciple whom Jesus loved. It kind of makes him sound like a sap, doesn't it? Like, oh, he loved me. Or like this really like soft side of John. But what's interesting is you notice, you remember what his nickname was? Or he and his brother. John and his brother James. You know what Jesus called them? He called them the sons of thunder, right? The sons of thunder. They were strong. They were loud. They were bold. And in fact, there are a couple stories that we see this in Scripture. One where I know some people were not receiving the ministry that was going on, and John was like, "All right, let's deal with these guys, Jesus. We're going to call down fire from heaven to burn them up." He's like, "Whoa, just calm down, John." Another time, there's a time where, hey, these guys seem to be doing kind of things like us, but they're not. They're not on our team, so let's get them out of here. They're not for us, they're against us. And just like, calm yourself. Son of thunder. Relax. See, John was strong. He was bold. And yet, in his strength, he had this incredible love for Jesus. You know, today's Palm Sunday. Next week is Easter. And I think about the story of Easter and John, and it's interesting where John shows up throughout that story. The Last Supper. Where's John? He's right next to Jesus, right? You know, at dinner time at our house, like our girls always want to sit somewhere different. They always want to sit by someone. They very, very specifically they want to sit by, but it changes all the time, right? So Beth and I sit in the same spot every meal, and then the girls like, oh, I want to sit by Dad, I want to sit by Mom, I want to sit by Mommy, I want to sit by, and they're always like, I want to sit by Mommy. And I get this picture like that John was kind of like my girl sometimes, like, oh, I want to sit by Jesus, right? Like he sends the two to go prepare, he sends the disciples to go prepare the upper room. And like as soon as Jesus starts talking about dinner, John's like, I gotta get to sit by Jesus, right? Like he's just like excited, like a little kid that wants to sit by his best friend. Like he's always watching, they're going to mealtime, he's always watching, like where's Jesus putting down the stuff, right? And I'm gonna slide in right between him and the next disciple, right? John loved Jesus. He just wanted to be with Jesus. He wanted to be close to Jesus. Well, we see it as the night goes on. It goes to the Garden of Gethsemane. Right before Jesus is betrayed, we see John is going with Jesus going with his disciples, and he tells most of them, hey, stay right here. And he brings a few along with him to go deeper into the garden to pray. Who was among those disciples? John. Right? John. He loved Jesus. Later on, we see Jesus on the cross. And we don't know where any of the disciples are. Maybe they're right behind. I don't know where they were. We don't know where any of the disciples are, but we see one disciple surface at the cross. And who is it? It's John. See, even before that, when they go into the courtyard, when Jesus is being tried, all the other disciples are afraid, all the other disciples are nervous. John probably is a bit too himself. But who was the first one in there through the courtyard? John. He was there, and so at the foot of the cross, Jesus looks at John and he says, John, behold your mother, and Mom, here, your son. What he's saying is, John, when I'm gone, take care of my mom. Because I know you love me. I know you love me. See, in this race of life that we live, we're to be followers of Jesus. This is what it means. Number one, lesson to learn from John. Following Jesus means walking closely with him. You see, sometimes we become so mature Christians that we lose the silly, childlike warmth in our affection for our Savior. Paul warns the church in Revelation, do not lose your first love. Don't outgrow always wanting to sit next to Jesus. Yeah, we had a great January of regularly spending that time with him, but don't get too busy, because being a follower of Jesus, it starts with being close to him. Be that one that wakes up in the morning and says, no, scoot over, I'm sitting next to Jesus today. We must be close to Jesus if we're going to run this race that is marked out before us. We've got to be close to him, and that requires that we spend time with him. I mean, just naturally, right? Physically, if John is going to be as close as he can to Jesus, if he's going to walk close with Jesus, he's going to know Jesus, he's going to love Jesus, what does it require of him? To give him his time. And if we want to be followers of Jesus that make it to the end of this race of life, we've got to be ones who walk closely with him. But John wasn't the only one that was impacted by that meeting that day. Verse 40 says this, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, was one of the two who heard what John had said and who had followed Jesus. The first thing Andrew did was to find his brother Simon and tell him, we have found the Messiah, that is the Christ. And he brought him to Jesus. So picture this, right? So Andrew and John, they get up, they go, they follow Jesus. Jesus brings him in and he spends the whole day with him. And now it's starting to get dark, time to hit the hay. Jesus is saying, all right, I got to get to bed, guys. I'll see you later. And they leave Jesus' house. And John goes off just enamored with Jesus, going, I've got to spend time with him tomorrow. But it says with Andrew, he had a different response. So the first thing that Andrew did was what? He went and he found Peter. He went and he found his brother. Andrew leaves and goes, man, he's here. The one we're waiting for is here. The one that can change your life is here. The one who is sent from God is here. He's here. And he just brought me in. And he treated me unlike anybody ever treated me before. This man is incredible. I've got to tell somebody about this. The first thing that he did. The first thing that he went and found Peter. And notice that it said, he went and found Peter and he brought Peter to Jesus. You know, there's some who are ready for Jesus just right away. John and Andrew. They were searching for truth. And John the Baptist, all he had to do was say, he's right there. And they said, all right, I'm going. Right? Sometimes all we have to do in reaching out with the love of Christ to people is simply point them to Jesus and say, hey, listen, there he is. And people are going to get up and they're going. They're ready. They're prepared to embrace Jesus. If you know much about Simon, you can tell that he wasn't ready. See, Andrew wasn't going to leave it to chance. Andrew wasn't just going to say, hey, Simon, we need to go check out this Jesus guy, because he knew what Peter would probably say. What does he do? He brought his brother to Jesus. You know, sometimes it's not enough to tell people about Jesus. Sometimes we've got to bring them. Sometimes we've got to hold their hand. We've got to say, okay, come on. Sometimes we've got to bring them into our lives. Sometimes we've got to go step into theirs. And we begin to introduce them. They would make the handoff. Let me show you how you can meet Jesus in this circumstance in your life. Let me show you who Jesus is in that relationship in your life. Let me show you who Jesus is. And you bring someone to him. Sometimes we just point and say, there he is, go get him, and people are going to go. Other times, we've got to get involved in their lives and bring somebody to Jesus. It's interesting where he started. His family. I know that there are people in here, you've given your life to Jesus, you have followed him, and you're pursuing him. God has changed your life, and you got family members that do not know Jesus. Listen, we've got to shift gears, shift our mindset. This Christian thing is this thing that I do, and it works for me. Because if Jesus is who he says he is, I mean, when Andrew saw it, he said, if he is who he says he is, if he is who I know him to be, how could I not say something? But too often we live like scared, intimidated Christian lives, like the fact that we follow Jesus is this dirty little secret. And Andrew's like, this is the best thing that ever happened. Why would the preacher need to tell me to go tell people about Jesus? It's the coolest thing in the world. It just makes sense that I would bring people and introduce other people to him so that they could know the God that I know. And this was Andrew's thinking. And this is what it means to be a disciple. You don't just follow Jesus so you can grow healthy and strong, but you understand who he is to those that you love, and you bring them all along. Andrew's one of those characters in the Bible that isn't mentioned a ton, especially in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. The only time he's mentioned in those Gospels are just when they're just basically describing or introducing the disciples. But John shows up a few different places. It's interesting where he shows up, too. He's always doing the same thing. In John 1, he's bringing his brother to Jesus. John 6 is the story of the feeding of 5,000. Right? The crowd is hungry. They don't have anything to do. Jesus says, what are you going to do about it? So they go off and they find this little boy. And I don't know what anybody else's thoughts are, and I don't know what if Andrew was the only one thinking this way, but I'll tell you what happened in the story. Andrew saw a boy and said, you know what? This kid needs to meet Jesus, and we'll see what Jesus might do. Again, he's bringing people to Jesus. So we're reading a few chapters ahead. In John chapter 12, there's these Greeks, these Gentiles, these outsiders, these foreigners, these nobodies. I mean, Jesus came, the Messiah is coming from the Jews. Everybody knows that. Maybe Gentiles. And so here these Gentiles, these Greeks, show up on Jesus' doorstep. Hey, we want to meet Jesus. And Philip is the first one to hear about it. He goes, I don't know what am I supposed to do. Andrew says, hey, I got an idea. Let's bring him to Jesus. See, 3 times we see Andrew show up in the story, and every single time he's doing the same thing. The funny thing is he quickly becomes eclipsed by his brother, doesn't he? And Peter kind of sort of takes the center stage in the whole story of the disciples and all that kind of stuff, because his brother is loud and just speaks without thinking and takes a lot of attention and you know what? Andrew doesn't even care. I want to get this picture that Andrew doesn't care if Peter takes center stage. Andrew doesn't care who gets the glory for what's going on. He just knows that he loves his Jesus and he wants everybody he knows to meet him too. Number 2, the lesson we learned from Andrew is that following Jesus means bringing people to Jesus. Simple as that. Following Jesus means bringing people to Jesus. So let's look at who he brought to Jesus here. We keep going to the story, verse 42. And he brought him to Jesus. Jesus looked at him and said, you are Simon, son of John. You will be called Cephas, which is translated as Peter. I wonder, that's just an interesting way to meet somebody. You introduce to somebody and you tell them who they are. That is interesting, right? I wonder if Jesus had heard about Peter. Maybe just because he's kind of a loud personality anyway, so his word travels. But maybe he spent the whole day with Andrew the day before, or maybe it was earlier that day. I don't know exactly, but maybe Andrew talked about, oh yeah, here's my brother. Here's the story about Peter, or about Simon, sorry. And so Jesus meets him and says, oh, you were Simon, son of John. I just wonder if maybe it came across that way a little bit. Jesus said, I know who you are. I know who you are. You're loud. You're wishy-washy. You talk without thinking. You know, there's a few stories in the Bible. There's actually a lot of stories in the Bible about Peter or Simon before Jesus, Peter afterwards. And we'll see a number of stories, but some of them depicted really well. There's one story where Peter is there, a few of the disciples are there, and at the Transfiguration. Another story where Jesus is there, and he's transfigured, and he meets with Moses and Elijah, and they're right there, and Peter is all excited, like, dude, I'm seeing something incredible. And what does he say? I'm gonna build like 3 tents, and each of you can have your own place to live. And then it says in the narrative, and Peter didn't even know what he was saying. It's kind of the story of Peter's life, right? It gets all, but none of you guys know anybody like that, right? No pointing fingers, all right? There's some that like you just speak and then you figure it out later. You start talking and you're like making up your mind while it's all coming out. You speak before you think. That's Peter. But he wanted to speak cautiously. But he spoke without thinking. He spoke big, right? Remember when Jesus is washing the disciples' feet? And Jesus comes and gets to Peter. He's washing the disciples' feet. He gets to Peter. What does Peter say? And I'm sure it was big and flamboyant too. No, Jesus, not my feet. No, I am unworthy to have you wash my feet. Jesus says, unless I wash your feet, you won't be clean. Oh, Jesus, wash everything then. Wash my whole body. You know what's interesting? Is when throughout the Gospels, when Simon, Peter, when he's acting like his old self, he constantly calls him, Jesus refers to him as Simon. There was one time after Jesus is crucified, Peter just gives up and throws the towel and says, well, I was wrong. Obviously, I was wrong. And he goes back to fishing. Maybe it seems insignificant, but he left that lifestyle to follow Jesus. He left his job and followed Jesus. He laid down his neck, and now he's fishing again, which means he'd given up hope. Wishy-washy. A week prior, I'm going to die for you. I'll give my life for you. A week later, I forget all that. I ain't going to go find a job. Jesus showed up to him. What did he say? Simon, Simon, son of John. Listen, you're acting like your old self. But Jesus says, first then, you are Peter. You are Cephas. It means the word name Peter translated means rock. See, I know you. I know you, Simon, son of John. I know you wishy-washy, loud-mouthed, emotionally unstable. I know you. And your name is Peter. Your name is Rock. And later on in his life, he says, and on this rock I'll build the foundation of my church. See, here's the thing. Jesus sees differently than what we see. Doesn't he? We talked about this a couple weeks ago when we looked at John and finding his identity in the scripture. But listen, following Jesus, yes, it means walking closely with Jesus. And yes, it means bringing others as we follow Jesus, bringing others to Jesus. But listen, number 3, the thing we'll learn from Peter is that following Jesus means trusting what Jesus sees more than what we see. And trust is a big deal when it comes to our relationship with God. It's something we talk about in Christian circles and churches and all that kind of stuff often. Trusting Jesus. But usually, when we talk about trusting Jesus, we think of pictures like Jesus in the boat, the storm, and everybody's freaked out. But they needed to trust Jesus, right? We basically trust Jesus for the circumstances of our lives. Trust Jesus that no matter what we find, where we find ourselves, Jesus is going to come through. I'm going to trust Jesus. You know where we don't often talk about trusting Jesus? We often overlook in our own lives. And we can have confidence that Jesus is going to work in my circumstance. But sometimes we fail to trust Jesus is we fail to trust that we are actually who he says we are. And Peter wrestled with this throughout his life. This wasn't like it said, you are Peter, and instantly everything about him changed. He still often walked in that old Simon identity. For 3 years, you would go back and forth. You continue to fall back in, and and act in that old Simon identity. See, but Jesus saw something different. See, maybe even Andrew, maybe that's why Jesus knew who Simon was, because he heard some ridiculous stories from his brother. Let me tell you about my idiot brother, Simon. You are Simon, but today I'm going to call you Rock. Oh yeah, you are the wishy-washy one. But upon you I will build my church. See, Jesus doesn't wait till we start changing, cleaning up our lives for him to then begin to speak identity into us. Jesus speaks a new identity into you the moment that you come to Jesus. There's no dialogue. Andrew brings Simon to Jesus. He meets Jesus, and the first thing he does, he says, okay, this is who you were, and this is who you are now. As we read the rest of the story, Peter becomes one of the central figures in the spread of the gospel around the world. Because Jesus saw something in him that he didn't see in himself. Can I tell you something? Those of us who put our faith and our hope and our trust in Christ, I'm telling you, Jesus sees something in you that you do not see in yourself. And he has given you a new identity. The shame of your past, he just sees right past it. The failures that continue to haunt you, he sees right through it. And he sees you for who he calls you to be. But as long as we fail to see that, we continue to stumble back into our way of identity. We hear the voice of Jesus, we follow Jesus, and hear him speaking your identity to you. He sees in you what you don't see in yourself. He's made you into something new. Being a follower of Jesus means we walk closely with him. We're infatuated with him. We love that time with him. Being a follower of Jesus means that we're bringing others in this journey with him. Being a follower of Jesus means that we're trusting what he sees more than what we see. Hebrews 12, beginning for us. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. Let us run with perseverance the race that is marked out for us. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. You know what? In that marathon that I was running, I rounded that corner and I hit 13 miles. Everybody's gone. And there I am left to run alone. But here's the the funny thing. I made a big rookie mistake. And I knew better. You see, in a marathon, at least the Lincoln Marathon, I don't know everything about all of them. I've never done any but one. So in this marathon, they have these guys called pacers. And these guys are experienced runners, big time experience. This is what they do. They run with a sign. First of all, that in and of itself would just be challenging for me. They run holding a sign. A real tall sign, you can see it. It's got a little number on it, time on it. They're so experienced, such experienced marathon runners, that they will pace perfectly the entire race and finish nearly exactly on the time that they're holding. Is that impressive or what? I'm just like, my goal, survive. They can hit on the minute what time they want to finish. And so they're all throughout. I mean, there's thousands, like I said, of people there. And so every so often you see the sign, this pace time on it. Here's these experienced who've done this zillions of times, who know exactly what they're doing, exactly how to pace a marathon, exactly how to finish and finish well. But I thought, in all my running expertise and all my internet searches on how to run a marathon, that I could put together a better game plan on how to finish a marathon than somebody that's done it could like do it in their sleep. And so I started well ahead of schedule. And I got to mile 13 and 14 and 15 and then I walked. And I ran for a little bit and I walked. Then I ran for a little bit more and then I walked for a real long time. But I finally caught my breath and I finished. And I finished already. About 20 minutes behind where I'd like to be. The game plan is simple. I didn't have to figure it out. I didn't have to figure how fast to run or when to run. I didn't have to do any of that. All I had to do was follow the one running in front of me. And I'd finish exactly where I want to be. That's it. How do I make sure that I don't start too fast, that I burn out, or I don't start too slow, that I don't ever be able to have the chance to catch up? Follow the one who's gone before you. You say, well, how did the Apostle Paul, after, man, his life was amazing. Anybody who says, like, my life is too bad for God that I forget, read Apostle Paul. He killed people because they like Jesus. I mean, it's a messed up dude. How does God take a guy like that? How does he finish so strong? How did he get to the end of his life and say, I have finished the race? He followed his pacer. How did guys like John and Andrew and Simon and the rest of the disciples, how do they live their lives in such a way that it makes an impact on the rest of the world 2,000 years later? I mean, just think of how long our country's been around. The movement they started has been going strong for 2,000 years. I'd say they ran well. How'd they do it? They followed the pacer. They didn't have to put together a world evangelism strategy. They didn't have to put together this, to figure out like what's their secret recipe. You know, what are the highly effective, the disciplines of a highly effective person, the habits. They didn't need any of that stuff. They just needed to follow Jesus. That's it. They did. It changed the world. They finished strong. It may cost most of their life. They finished strong. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus. I mean, you don't have to create a strategy on how to finish this race. It is not on your strategy. He's already got one. Follow the pace, man. See what he did. Listen to his teachings. See how he taught. See how he lived. And do it. Follow Jesus. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus. The author and the perfecter of our faith, the starting line and the finish line to this race. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinful men, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. I want to run like John. I want to run like John. Closely to Jesus every day. I want to run like Andrew. who the most logical way to run was to invite everybody he could to come run with him. I'd run like Peter, who, though filled with imperfection, kept getting up and kept running. And God eventually brought him to the place where he could run strong. Peter didn't do it perfectly, but he kept running. He fell down, he got up, and he followed on his feet. He followed Jesus. And because he did it, God used him to change him.